Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most important things any government does, figuring out how to make a national budget. I mean, it's a question that hits all of us right where we live. Literally, we're talking roads, schools, healthcare. It all starts with a plan. But how does that plan get made? And who really gets to decide where all that money goes? Well, that is exactly what we are going to break down right now. So at its heart, a budget is so much more than just a boring spreadsheet with numbers. You got to think of it as a statement of priorities. It's a formal plan, usually for about a year, that lays out exactly how a government is going to use its resources to hit some very specific goals for its people.
Okay, so let's get into what a national budget is really for. It's basically the ultimate financial plan. And you'll see it wears a whole lot of different hats.
A budget is, first and foremost, a roadmap. It guides what's happening now and shapes what's going to happen later. It's also a control lever, to keep all the income and all the spending in check. And this is a big one. It's how we decide to divvy up limited resources. Because let's be real, no country has unlimited cash. And finally, it works like a report card. It's a tool to look back and see how well the government actually did against the goals it set for itself. But here's a little inside baseball for you. That annual budget, it doesn't just pop up out of nowhere every single year. Nope. It's actually born from a much, much longer-term strategy. The whole process really kicks off with a 3-year outlook. This longer view is absolutely essential for any kind of stability and smart planning. And it gets formalized in a document with a bit of a fancy-sounding name. It's called the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, or MTEF for short. The easiest way to think about the MTEF is as the master plan. It's the big picture strategic document that sets the stage and pretty much provides the guardrails for creating each individual annual budget. Now, what's really crucial about this MTF is the mental shift it creates. It moves the whole conversation away from just a wish list of needs and wants, which, can be endless, to a much more realistic talk about what the nation can actually afford. It forces discipline by making everyone start with what's actually available. Okay, so we've got our 3-year strategic plan. Now, how does that get turned into the annual budget that actually becomes law? Well, this is where the political machine really kicks into high gear. This journey right here is fascinating. First, all the different government ministries, think education, health, defense, they all submit what they think they need to spend. Then, the executive branch, like the president's cabinet, takes all those proposals, reviews them, probably trims them down a bit, and creates one single draft budget. Then comes the debate. This draft goes to the legislature as something called an appropriation bill, where it gets picked apart, debated, and hopefully approved. The final step, the president or governor signs it, and just like that, it's law. And once that ink is dry, it gets a brand new name, the Appropriation Act. That's the official legal term for the budget. It is now the law of the land, and it gives the government the official permission to collect taxes and spend public money exactly as laid out in the plan. So we've talked about the process, but what about the numbers themselves? How do those officials in the ministries actually decide on the specific figures they ask for in the first place? Well, generally speaking, there are 2 main ways to go about it. The most common way is what's called incremental budgeting. It's pretty straightforward. You just take last year's budget as your starting point and add a little bit more for things like inflation or maybe some new projects. The other way is a much more radical approach, zero-based budgeting. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You start from zero. Every single department has to justify every single dollar it's asking for, almost like they're building their budget for the very first time. And this really sums up the trade-offs perfectly. Incremental budgeting, it's simple, it's stable. But its big, big flaw is that it can carry forward old mistakes and wasteful spending year after year. Zero-based budgeting, on the other hand, is amazing for sniffing out those inefficiencies and making sure money goes where it's truly needed right now. But the downside is huge. It is incredibly time-consuming. You need a mountain of data, and it's just really, really hard to manage, especially for an organization as massive as a government. Now, writing a budget is one thing, but making it happen in the real world, that's a whole other ballgame. Even the most perfectly crafted plan can run into some pretty serious roadblocks. And here are some of the usual suspects. Inflation can just eat away at a budget, meaning the money you set aside buys a lot less than you planned. Unreliable data can make your forecasts for how much money you're going to collect totally wrong. Political drama or social unrest can stop major projects cold. And then you have fiscal indiscipline. That whole use it or lose it mindset where agencies scramble to spend whatever's left at the end of the year just so they can justify getting the same or more the next year.
So the big takeaway here is that getting that Appropriation Act signed is a massive achievement for sure, but the story is not over, not by a long shot. A plan is only as good as how well you stick to it.
And this is where something called budgetary control comes into play. It's the whole follow-up system, all the checks and balances, designed to make sure the government actually sticks to the plan. It's all about monitoring, reporting, and making adjustments throughout the year to keep spending on track.
And listen, this isn't just a nice to have. It's actually part of international standards for being transparent. These standards require governments to publish reports that show a side-by-side comparison of what they planned to spend versus what they actually spent. This is what closes the accountability loop, showing all of us citizens exactly how the plan measured up to reality.
Because when you get right down to it, a nation's budget is so much more than a law or some financial document. It's a promise. It's a plan to improve the lives of its citizens. And that leaves us with the most important question of all, doesn't it? How well is that promise actually being kept? Thanks for joining this explainer.